Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Totally Well Show. I'm your host, Joyce Strong. The Totally Well Show is a place where we get curious, ask questions, and explore everything to do with health, wellness, fitness, personal development, helping people, and all the things it takes to help you live a strong, joyous life. My guest today is Eliot Kelly. Eliot is a professional speaker, a coach, and an author. He has 4 books. And he is going to work with us today, tell us a little bit about his background and how he helps all of us become healthy, wealthy, and wise with learning financial literacy skills and life skills. Hi, Eliot. How are you today?
I'm getting better and better. I'm really, really grateful for the opportunity to come on your show, Joyce. Thank you.
And same here. The name of your show is Eliot TV. Is Eliot Kelly TV?
That's correct. Eliot Kelly TV.
Yeah. And of course, this is Totally Well podcast.
Thank you. And I know you have a lovely audience, so I'm looking forward to sharing some good gems, a bit of gems. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I posted, you made a graphic for me and I reposted that. And I promised my viewers that we were going to get some tips on being healthy, wealthy, and wise.
All right. That's excellent. That's what I'm about. I'm trying to learn as well so we can learn and share.
That's right. That's right. I'm curious, I went through and I see that you're a speaker and author and that you do coaching and you help people like me and others who want to improve in all the ways that we need to be good business people and having the right life skills. But I always love to hear the backstory. Like, how did you get to this? Something must have made you pivot one way or another.
Well, I grew up in the Bahamas, and again, thank you for the opportunity and the question. I grew up in the Bahamas. I was raised in a single parent family.
Yeah.
My mom was an author, and she worked for the government for about 28 years, Joyce. Those experiences as a government worker really exposed me to work ethic. So that was the first thing I was exposed to, her work ethic. I learned a bit more that she was very how should I put it? She was interested in her work, but that kind of was channeled only at that particular work that she was doing. It wasn't diversified. It wasn't any exploration. There was just a real tunnel vision on the government work that she was doing. But as far as principles, she raised us up with strong principles and strong values, being mannerly, always showing respect to people, saying, yes, ma'am, thank you, So we got the fundamentals, but as far as learning more about income, learning more about our own opportunity to deliver skills to the market, we didn't necessarily get that. I was, God bless her and God bless some of the other persons in my village, we were raised with a sense of you go to school, you get a good job. Yeah. And we did that. We did that quite well. She actually was diagnosed with cancer in 2009. And that kind of changed our relationship. Even though she was working a little bit less, I started to spend more time with kind of channeling my own energy into my work. It was a very depressing time. I was overweight. Things weren't going so well with her. There was a lot of financial burdens with her actual courses of medicine. So I really needed an outlet, and that outlet became my work. I started off in the hospitality industry. So I would just serve. I would spend a lot of hours there. As fate would have it, I came across a guest, a millionaire guest, he opened himself to me, and he pulled me in the corner one time, and when he was visiting, he was like, Eliot, you're really good at what you do. And I was like, because as you get good at something and someone tells you, Joyce, people tell you you're good at being an interviewer all the time, and you just brush it off. You say, yeah, okay, I'm good. He's like, no, you really have a talent for speaking. You have a talent for communicating, and you know how to deal with people. And that's where I bridged the story between what the lessons and the fundamentals that my mom gave me to what this gentleman was saying. And I kind of sat down and I thought about what he was saying. And he said, you have the potential to be one of the great ones. You should probably try to develop yourself a bit more. He was really blunt and to the point.
Yeah.
and it struck me, you know, because when someone tells you something like that, like, I mean, my mom always used to say that the truth will set you free, but first it's gonna sting a bit, and that sure did sting, Joyce. That sure
Yeah.
did sting.
Yeah.
The guy in one breath, he's telling me I'm good, and in the other breath, he's telling me like you could be better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of I humbled myself and I sat in reflection. Like I said, this was a depressing time for me, and I said, what do I really want to do with my life? I'm overweight. I'm behind in my bills. My mom is poorly. What am I gonna do with my life? And he spent time with me through continuous stays, coming back to the resort where I worked in the Bahamas, and he gave me books. He introduced me to books. Now I always read, Joyce, but to be honest with you, I was reading rubbish. You
Yeah.
know, I would read tabloids. I would read a little article here in a magazine. But he introduced me to a book called The Alchemist, and that book is written by a gentleman and an author by the name of Paulo Coelho,
Yeah.
and it's a dynamic story about a young man who himself was a bit lost in a lot of rights, and he was on a journey of his own, and he followed what he called his personal legend, and I discovered that I had a personal legend as well. My mom, God bless her, she eventually passed from cancer, and that was a real turning point for me. I was left alone. There was a younger sibling, but left alone in the sense that if your mom is all you knew growing up in a single parent home,
Yeah.
then when she passes, you're all alone. And maybe some of your audience can relate to being in a single parent home, or even relate to losing someone who is the main guardian. Um, I I decided, Joyce, to turn my life around. On her, what would be her deathbed, she looked at me straight in the eyes. She was very, very weak. She was very, very frail, to the point where I was bathing her um, on the bed, and she looked at me and she said, "Eliot, be somebody," you know. And
Yeah.
Joyce, that really moved me. That really moved me. And those were the last conversations with her. She put a charge to me that she wanted me to be somebody, and I dove into the books. I started reading more books. After I finished with The Alchemist, I started reading books like Think and Grow Rich. I started reading books by Seth Godin. I was reading the 10X from Grant Cardone, um, reading books from Greg Reed, 3 Feet from Gold, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and not just reading this information, not just I wasn't trying to break a record.
Yeah.
Um, I
You were
was literally
studying it. You were.
I was studying this material and
Yeah.
trying to understand, because one thing I would say to your audience, and I know this your show and your ethos is about wellness. One of the things I find that's so therapeutic about reading is, especially if you've read a book the first time, when you read it again, you find a nugget in that book
Mm-hmm.
that you hadn't seen on the first pass or the second pass, or maybe even the third pass. So I always encourage persons to actually read, to understand the chapters. If you can't rehearse something that you've read, then you don't really understand it. If you can't apply it, you don't really understand it.
You
So
know what? Just in that point, I like to tell people because I do a lot of audible listening to the books, but you read a book the first time and it changes you. That's why when you go back and read it again, you come in with a different perspective because you're not the same as you were the first time. So there's this layers of learning that's interaction with the book, right?
yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's how you said it. When you said layers, that's the key term for me, because I treated the book like an onion. And every time I read it, I would just peel off a layer off of that onion. Eventually you get to the core of what the author maybe were trying to share with you. And no individual experience, even I'd like to put that disclaimer out here. First of all, none of this information that I share is my information. At the point, in answer to your question, the point that I'm at now, I've done over 3,000 interviews, whether that's with celebrities or laypersons, persons that paint, gardeners, persons that work in ministry, persons that teach, police officers, firefighters, and that gives you a wealth of information. And I think what I've been able to do is to distill that information and to pass that on to people and help them. So yeah, that's how I got into public speaking, by first of all learning the material and then applying the material. And that attracted the right people into my life. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. I'll tell you a little bit more about some of the persons that I've attracted. Obviously attracted yourself into my life, which is really an honor to be in your good company. Some of the other persons in your group on LinkedIn. If you're not on LinkedIn, guys, if you're not following Joyce and you're watching on my channel, make sure you go ahead and you follow Joyce on her channel.
Thanks, Eliot. Yeah. I know that it's one thing to grab all this content, this information, and distill it into something, but doing the next step, which is, what you've done to be able to actually produce books, write the books and to systematically apply that work ethic and, take all that information, that's another whole skill set.
It certainly is,
Yeah.
and Joyce, I'll allude, and a lot of the things I say alludes to what my mom taught me. She was my main teacher and my main mentor for so many years. And we're going to talk about the importance of having great mentors, something that we offer as a service. But she always told me, and I know, do you like seafood, Joyce?
Yes.
Yeah, well, my mom was a seafood lover, and so I ended up inheriting seafood, a love for seafood. And what we learn is when you eat a fish, you eat the meat and you spit out the bones.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to Gary Vee and Gary Vee curses too much, that may not be your cup of tea. If you're listening to Eliot and Eliot says something that doesn't apply in your particular region or where you're in your life, then you may have to disregard that particular portion. And likewise for Joyce, I guess you get my point. But what I'm saying is we can learn from kids. I know you've worked with kids as well, Joyce. We can learn from kids. We can learn from so many different fields. You had Sarah Ward on your show with the hydroponics farm, and she laid out a very, very important principle. She spoke about fast growing her crop. So the ability to actually fast track her crop.
Yeah.
So you need to we advise, and this is what a mentor does. A mentor actually allows you to immerse yourself in a fast track. And there are different authors. There's Keith Ferrazzi who speaks about, the fast lane, and it's not just about millionaire. I know Instagram, I know social media, I know Facebook, I know all these things, all these platforms. They push the Mercedes, they push the Ferrari, the luxury trip to Dubai. Yes, there's a place for all those things. There's a place for money as well, because Joyce's electricity would not be on if she didn't pay her bill. So there's a place for all of these things. But the ultimate satisfaction that I get, and I think that Joyce gets, is when we're able to pour value into the persons, our audience, our listeners, our viewers, someone that we meet on the street. So that's what's important. You want to take the meat from what I'm saying, and if it applies to you, you digest that. And the beauty of this technology is you don't have to listen to Eliot once. You don't have to listen to Joyce once. You don't have to listen to Gary Vee once. You can find a particular message and you want to, play that over and over and over and over. And Brian Tracy speaks about that a lot as well, playing the information over and over. Thank you for that, Joyce.
So I guess if I'm getting it right, then finding somebody who you resonate with and then modeling after them and establishing a relationship with a mentor. I always do better to have a coach or a mentor, somebody I can ask for help, who has an exchange of the heart with me as well, who has some kind of caring and continuous relationship that seems to do something special for me. I don't always have the full confidence in myself, but other people can see it. And I respect them so much. I'll believe them if they tell me I'm good at that. Now, I just take it as faith, and that perhaps it's something in my old tapes or my old memories from childhood that made me believe that I couldn't, when in fact I can. I just need to do it. in practice.
Certainly. From what I understand of your personality, which is so glowing, is that you're a nurturer, Joyce. And I'm sure anyone that gets in contact with you, they feel that natural magnetism. That's just you. It's
Yeah.
not pretend, it's not on Monday or on Tuesday, ends at 5 p.m. You are consistently a nurturer. So I think that's where your audience finds value with you.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for noticing that. I do love people, and I really I like to meet somebody and get to know them, get to dig deeper. That's why when I started asking you questions, I wanted to know, how did you get here, and what made you Eliot, and with all the different character traits and belief systems and work ethic and all that.
Certainly. If I may add, we always encourage in our seminars that an audience, if you, hopefully you guys, I know you're familiar with Joyce, but my style is I like to encourage you to take notes as well. That allows you to get a little bit more engaged. If you're watching, again, you want to click share depending on which platform you're on. But yeah, what I'm saying to you is you want to align yourself with three people. That's three people. And these three people, this is just a representative or symbolic number. It doesn't have to be 1, 2, 3. I know you get me,
Yeah.
right? You want to align yourself with someone that is at a higher level than yourself.
Yeah.
You want to align yourself with someone that is on par with yourself. And then you want to align yourself with someone that you maybe can pull up. So as you get information from the person that's higher than you want to start sharing that information with the person that is on your lateral.
Yeah.
And then you want to start pouring that information into the person that you're pulling up. So what this does is this gives you a 360. It gives you a real full robust dimension. You don't want to be one dimensional.
Yeah.
And again, those three persons were just symbolic, and I'm sure your audience is very enlightened. You're going to take the message from that. But what's so important is don't become an empire builder. It's the worst thing you can do. Don't hoard the information. It's like money. It's currency. This information should flow through you. Number one, you don't own the information. The person who you got it from, they don't own the information.
Yeah.
This information is just timeless principles, timeless concepts. And I find that, what we find, Joyce? The most important fundamentals are very, very simple.
Mm-hmm.
Now
I
we
agree.
have some thought leaders that make them very complicated.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but but
That's true.
the really, really great ones, the really, really great ones, they take complex subjects and they put them down on the cookie jar level.
Yeah.
They take the cookies off the high shelf and they put them down on the low shelf. And that's what we're supposed to do as communicators. Not take simple subjects and make them complex. We're supposed to take complex matters and make them very, very simple. Even if we have a lot of persons who may be crafting a pitch for a presentation. If you're looking at creating a business plan, you're going to send your message to an investor. Make your message as crystal clear as possible. You don't need to use, my mom used to say, highfalutin words. Okay? This is not a test of vocabulary. This is an opportunity for you to craft a message that is very, very easy to get across to a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
Your numbers need to be very, very clear. Your cash flow forecast and your budgeting needs to be very, very clear. What do you expect to be the return on investment? Who are the persons that are involved? What is the experience that you're bringing to the table? What are you passionate about? Why you? Why should someone invest in you? What have you invested in yourself? These are the questions that you want to be answering and you want to be articulating to a potential investor. I hope that helps someone out there.
Yeah, that was very well said. I love the three person. I had never heard it said just the way you said it. And I think I naturally do that because I like to always learn from, although it can be intimidating to put yourself in the presence of somebody smarter, but I like to go there. I like to interview people, a lot of people who are in the same level as I am. And then I just started a program, Coach to Coach. Not that I have all the highest level of coaching ability to teach anybody, but there are a lot of people who are just beginning the 10-year battle I just went through, of learning and the mistakes I made, who I could help.
Definitely.
So, yeah,
Definitely.
so I think that's really, and that's how I learned to be able to take it in and then teach it, helps me
Yeah.
solidify the learning.
Yeah. You asked, and I always like to come back to the questions that you asked, so that you get the full answer. You asked how I got to the point that I'm at now.
Yeah.
What I learned from some of the books that I've read is that the author who you're reading, he's not sat there with you. He has no idea what level, what stage you're at.
Yeah.
So writing, I'm flipping this now, being the writer,
Mm-hmm.
you as the author, you then now you start to consider everybody. You start to consider learning styles.
Mm-hmm.
We have people that are VAC, people that are visual,
Mm-hmm.
people that may want to see closed caption on the screen to better resonate or understand or vibrate with me and you, Joyce. There are persons that maybe just want to listen. They're more auditory. So
Mm-hmm.
they may be on their car. Someone may be brushing their teeth right now. Someone may be in the bathroom indisposed. A lot of my best times, my best moments, which is, I love your show because it's so real. Some of our best moments, if you're not having good moments while you're indisposed, you're missing a trick. You're really missing a trick. There are three important times when you can get really, really good inspiration. That's early hours of the morning, right after you wake up,
Yeah.
right before you go to bed, and when you're indisposed. Now, someone on the feed is going to say, oh, he's being gross. No, I'm being very, very, very real. And for the persons who get this message, they really know. They're like, yeah, I remember that time. Yeah, so yeah, those are very, very key moments. You want to use those times. Tony Robbins, he calls it. How does it's like me time. He calls it me time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you're having me time. It's not just a number one or number two or number three or whatever you want to call it. It is your time.
Yeah.
That's time for you to reflect. If it's early hours of the morning, Eliot, what do I have to do today? What is the most important task that I have to do today? Then we bring in the 80-20. If I were to get these 20% of things done, what would the 20% be? So we start asking really, really tough questions, knowing what I know now, knowing what I did yesterday, what could I do differently today.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different things that we can ask ourselves, and questions. That's the next thing we talk about in our sessions, the importance of questions. Questions are very, very important, and that's why we have this process. Thank you, Joyce.
Yeah. Now, I don't want to run out of time. I know you mentioned talking about attraction, like how one of the things I've been working on and learning, looking back at my childhood and how I grew up, um, is elevating my frequency, so to speak. So somehow really just being able to see things I can't see if my eyes are down, if I'm not seeing the best in myself. So what kinds of things do you teach to help people raise their frequency? I don't know how else to say that.
I'm really glad you asked that question, because this is a really, really key part of our seminar. Now, most of the persons on this show are very aware that the average person relies very heavily on visual, what they can see.
Okay.
Attraction operates in a very, very vast spectrum. And as you learn more and more about that spectrum, you start to move away from the things that you see with your outer eye, and you start to focus more on the things that you start to see with your inner eye. Now you say, Eliot, you're talking some esoteric nonsense. Let me break it down to you. You have other senses, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
You have your gut feeling. You
Mm-hmm.
meet someone in a bar, at a church, at a convention, and you know right away, I like this guy. I like this lady. That's a nice guy. That's a nice lady. You
Mm-hmm.
meet some other people, don't really. It's something about that guy.
Yeah.
It's something about that lady. So you have some built-in experiences that you need to start becoming aware. And then Bob Proctor talks about awareness a lot. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's what it has to do with being aware of what's going on. It
Mm-hmm.
also, when I say aware, you say, what do you mean by aware? You can be somewhere and not know that you're in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to repeat that twice.
Mhm.
You can be somewhere and not be aware that you're in the right place. So
Mhm.
sometimes you have to really be aware, and then it's intentionality. Your senses of understanding what's going on always has a correlation or a direct relationship with your intentionality. So I intentionally came on this podcast because I knew that I could get value from your audience
Mhm.
and add value to your audience. When you go to a seminar, you're being intentional. When you repeat your affirmations, you're being intentional. When
Mhm.
you're listening to your audiobook, you're being intentional. So put yourself in a place whereby everything that you do benefits you and allows you to pour into others.
Okay. I think sometimes it's a challenge for people to see themselves and see the way. For example, I had a client who works with patients, works with people, and was trying to shift more into energy healing in that realm. And she was just very dour and angry all the time. And I was like, I don't, does she not see that no one's going to come to her with that? She's just reeking of this negative energy. And over time, it's improved and improved and improved. And I'm like, I say to her, you're not even the same person anymore, because in the beginning, you were just so angry and into yourself and not seeing how you affected others. So I guess you have to be able to see how things bounce off of you too, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'll say two things on that as well. I have persons come up to me in the seminar. I had a lady come up to me. She's like, "Oh, Eliot, I don't know what I'm gonna do about my son. He has such a bad attitude."
Mm.
And I pause for a minute, and I'm listening to her motivation, the frequency that she's on. You spoke about energy. I'm
Yeah,
listening to the frequency she's on, and then I'm relating. I'm saying, yeah, it's probably because he picked it up from you.
yeah,
What the audience will appreciate is that energy is contagious and it's infectious.
yes,
Yeah, if you're the leader in your operation and you're sending off a nonchalant, no extra mile, very matter of fact, yes, no, I can do it, very clean cut in your approach, your team are going to take on that same pattern. But if you're jovial, if you consistently come in early, you stay late when you can, you're organizing tasks, always looking to, review processes, plan, do, review, yeah, making things better, then your team are going to pick those habits up as well. Your team are going to, add extra value to your customers. They're going to pick up the phone on the third ring. They're going to say thank you. They're going to do the guest recognition by name. They're going to fill in the loyalty card. It becomes very practical. It's not theoretical at that point.
I think it's so as a nurse and somebody who I've studied biopsychology, and I'm actually going to interview a doctor tomorrow on this very subject of when you're able to access that energy or change the energy you're sending out. You're really using different parts of your brain from the amygdala, the cingulate gyrus, and then getting to your prefrontal cortex. So you're getting out of this automatic or negative, kind of fight or flight thinking, or ruminating, kind of getting just stuck in a rut and really getting into the problem solving. So it's one of the things I've definitely worked on. I can see if I don't show up for my clients with a smile and a warm energy, they kind of mirror me. So, and I knew today I was going to enjoy meeting with you because I've watched some of your interviews and I know you have the $1,000,000 smile and you
Oh,
show up
thank
with
you.
all this energy. And I was like, oh, I can't, we're going to have two big smiles here.
Thank you. One thing I don't want to leave without passing on to your teams that they should always be measuring as well, Joyce. All of this concepts and reading books and audio tapes and affirmations and having podcasts and interviews, you need to be able to measure your success. That's very, very crucial.
Mhm.
One of the things we were able to do for one of our companies, we were able to increase their employee satisfaction by 30%, but by a very, very simple technique. What we found in the workplace, and we know you deal with wellness as well in employee workplace, one of the things we find is that employers normally point out when employees do something wrong.
Mm.
So we established a system where every day the employer will identify 3 people doing 3 things right
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
And what that did is that created a culture where people were now incentivized to be caught. And I use the Queen's English loosely there,
Yeah.
but to be caught doing something right,
Yeah.
as opposed to in the past, they were always being caught doing something wrong. And it works with children. Again, you were talking, we were saying you worked with children in the past. This can be worked in, used in your, or applied in your personal life.
Yeah.
If you find your kids doing something right, praise them for it.
Yeah.
It changes, it's a very, very tiny nuance, but it has really, really, really measurable impact.
And the power of that is also with self-talk. When I work with my clients, I tell them to catch themselves to doing something right. Like, don't judge that number on the scale is your success. You know, what are the things you did well, and write them down or text me or take a picture and share it with another human, because other people probably don't care if you ate your broccoli, but I do.
Yeah, you're right. We call them small wins, aren't they?
Yeah.
Small wins.
Yeah, they're big wins. They're small. They seem small. We have just a minute or so left. I know this went so fast, and maybe we'll get to chat again like this, because it's really fun to learn from you. Is there anything you want to add to the episode today before we go?
Certainly, I would just reiterate that your mental health is the foundation for any and everything that you want to accomplish, as far as taking yourself to the next level. And if you're not focusing on maintaining that health, you're gonna find that you're building a castle on sand. So it's very, very important, whether that's taking the me time, going to the spa, making that call to the loved one who you haven't made the call to, um, going to the church service, forgiving yourself. Yeah, very, very important. All of these things are, the whole thing is mental health is the foundation. Your health is definitely your wealth.
That's beautifully said. I think, again, I agree. It starts with your mindset and how things are. Feed yourself the fuel that you need to, because your brain is part of your body,
Yeah.
and get sleep. Sleep is good to help heal your brain and give you all the foundation you need to then read the books and do all the techniques that you have in your seminars, that all the ways you can make us healthy, wealthy, and wise.
Certainly.
Yeah.
If you haven't already, make sure you get, if you want to get a hold of us, it's ePlatinum Kelly on Facebook. Add us on LinkedIn. It's Eliot Kelly. We're running an extended Cyber Week sale at the moment. The book is actually $10. That's 10 US dollars. That's The Eye of the Needle, The
Yeah.
Cost of Success.
Eye of the Needle, Cost of Success. I will put that in the show notes as well. And the best place you said to reach you is on Facebook and LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. Yeah. If you, as we like to give away as well, Joyce, could you identify 3 persons randomly on your timeline, and we'll send out 3 books for free?
Oh, that's great. I'll do that. That's great. Eliot, I'm so happy I had a chance to talk with you like this, and I hope you'll come back sometime and do it again with me.
Certainly. Thank you. Never lose your passion.
And I love it. Never lose my passion.